has provided a detailed analysis to ensure compliance with the master plan, town code, and approval criteria. And the staff analysis determined that our proposal complies with those regulations. So we respectfully request that Planning Commission agree with staff and recommend approval of this proposal. And we're happy to answer any of your questions. We've got some other folks here with us. So thank you very much for your time this evening.
Questions for the applicant?
I'll start. I have a question. One of the concerns raised in the additional supplemental materials we were given was regarding an elk herd that until tonight I was unaware of.
Yeah,
Kind of exciting to know we have an elk herd roaming around the west side of Parker. I was wondering if your ecological consultant had done any work regarding the elk herd. I'm looking at how the open space kind of goes through it, but there's a little bit of space where there isn't any open space. So if there was any discussion of how an elk herd would move through this community as it's being built, not only for the safety of the elk, but for the safety of the children attending the school that will eventually be built there, that sort of thing.
Sure, no, happy to answer that. And actually, we had a call with the gentleman who submitted those questions on Monday, and then he came back on Tuesday and was like, hey, there's this stuff going on. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to look at it, but I did, Stacey, if you wouldn't mind, I did prepare, okay. Well, I'll start with, oh, we can go this one. Well, I'll start with this one. So this is the original PD master plan. And the only reason I pulled that up is because you'll see remarkably similar on the west side of Chambers. So when that was done, before we became involved, we assumed that they did all of those kinds of studies. Now we are going to do the more detailed studies when we go to the preliminary plan effort, similar to what we've done on the east side. So we have not engaged full ecological studies on the west side of Chambers because it's not a requirement of the zoning documents, and we don't do that until we get into the more detailed studies. Now, having said that, because this gentleman raised the issue, I did go to Colorado Parks and Wildlife and looked up elk migration. And so what this represents from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife website, these blue lines that you can see are recognized elk migration areas. And the asterisk is the approximate location of the Tantera property. And so then if you wouldn't mind scrolling down, sorry. So then what I did was I zoomed in and overlaid our PD on the Colorado Parks and Wildlife map. And while there may be, and I'm not doubting that he's seen elk there, and we'll study that at the preliminary plan stage for sure. But what I see when I look at this is a lot of open space around River Hess Reservoir. And I've been doing this for about 30 years. My guess is that the wildlife is going to gravitate towards the reservoir more than coming into the community and crossing like Hess Road or anything like that. So, but we will do those studies as we get to that stage, and if there's recommendations, then we'll follow them.
Another question?
I just have a comment. I'm a school person for many years, and I understand what the traffic looks like around a school and how awful it can be if you don't have enough access to it. It's a safety issue as well as just the whole neighborhood suffers from it. And so I think your proposal in terms of allowing more access in and out of the school will save the community many headaches down the road. So I think it's a great idea to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. As this is a public hearing, we always open it up to the public. And we do have a public comment tonight. I just ask that you step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Chair, I think that's for Avalon Bay.
Oh, that's for the other one? Okay,
I believe so.
all right.
I can speak to this one if you'd like.
Thank you.
The elk stay way far to the west, though I did almost hit one on Chambers Monday night.
Okay.
But generally, they're way west of the reservoir.
Generally.
Yeah, I just saw the whole herd this afternoon, way out west.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks, sir.
For what it's worth.
All right. If there's no other public comment, we will close the public comment portion of the meeting. And any further questions for Stacy or the applicant?
I have a further question for Stacy. Stacy, do we have any records of studies that have been done regarding wildlife in that area generally?
So not with this application. For a rezoning application, it's not an actual requirement that they submit that. Being that this was annexed in 1984 with additional annexations in 2003, we have not gone through all of those. But all the documents for the zoning that's already there have been supported.
Okay.
Other questions?
None for me.
Okay, we will close the public hearing at 7:21. Commissioner discussion.
I want to commend Ruth Ann for making sure that the comments that were expressed in the email we got were at least addressed in the comments. So thank you for that. I also want to appreciate the applicant for bringing what he could in the limited amount of time he had to actually address the question rather than avoid it. So thank you for that.
The zoning is not the time to go into detail on how to accommodate the elk herd. That would be during that planning stage that the applicant was speaking about. But I just wanted to point out that it is important that we look at that because that is part of our master plan under natural resource protections, sections 1A and B and D, that we consider that sort of thing in all aspects of development in Parker. And so it's something that I think we should take seriously. And I know that usually the herds are nowhere into the housing, but I also know that my dog was barking very loudly at the 6-point buck that was walking by my house in downtown Parker just last weekend. So they do make their way into the neighborhood, and elk are big, and I would have concerns that they would have places to walk as that planning is being done in the future, that they would have places to move through safely and away from the humans who might want to get too close with their selfies. But I think the extension of Bramwell and moving the school is a tremendous idea. I think that one of the concerns was the amount of housing that was being moved to segment 3, and what I really see is I see a concentration more of it being moved down towards Stroh Road, which is already a busy road, and actually opening up more space. And so I think that this is a good change zoning wise, and I will be in support of it.
I'm in support as well. Like many of, sounds like a lot of people here, I'm surprised that we have a resident herd of elk in Parker. Did not realize that. I know there's some in Daniels Park, but not realize they were here in Parker. I'm in agreement with it. It meets all the criteria. I am appreciative that the applicant is moving density away from existing single families and over to more concentrated area, as already been noted. Yeah, no concerns on my end. It meets all the criteria.
I'm going to agree with my fellow commissioners, and I appreciate the fact that you've been very conscientious, not only of wildlife, but also the population that will eventually be there. I think it's important to take all of that into consideration as we continue to grow in Parker. So thank you for doing that.
I will add my 2 cents and agree with everybody else. I think first of all, that there has been a significant enough change to the proposal to warrant the change in density, moving it around within the PD. I also commend the applicant for moving the school proposed location. I know I don't know. I recall this school area having been moved prior in a previous iteration, and so this is the best that I've seen. So the dual road access will mean a lot, like my fellow commissioner said.
I'm going to agree with everyone as well, and also thank you for bringing the extra information. I think the extension of Bramwell Drive just seems to make sense logistically, the way it's laid out, and also agree about moving the school for better access.
Well, and I'll throw in my 2 cents that as a former elementary principal, I do appreciate access on both sides of the building. That makes all the difference in the world. So, do we have a motion?
I move the planning commission recommend town council approve the Anthology North Plan Development 7th Amendment.
I second.
It's been moved by Eric, seconded by Ruth Ann, that planning commission recommend town council approve the Anthology North Plan Development 7th Amendment. I'll call the question. Jenny?
Yes.
Ileana?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item. Item 6B, the Avalon Bay Amendment Number 1, Plan Development Amendment and Zoning. And we will open the public hearing at 7:26. Stacy?
All right, good evening again. So before you tonight is the Avalon Bay Plan Development Amendment Number 1. So the subject property is very close, but it's located at the southeast corner of Crowfoot Valley Road and Stroh Road. So the subject property was annexed and zoned into the town of Parker on June 5th, 2023. So the applicant, Avalon Parker, is requesting a plan development amendment that will amend the commercial uses permitted within planning area 1 that is highlighted in red. This change primarily only affects the plan development guide. The proposed changes would do a couple things. So the first one, it would refine the timing and requirement for a multi-tenant commercial building. The proposed change will require a multi-tenant building still be constructed on the site. However, the timing for when this must be constructed is being removed. In addition, the definition of a multi-tenant building is being changed to be 3 tenants. The size within the multi-tenant has also been removed. The second change is we are removing the setback requirement for drive-through uses. This change would allow a drive-through to be located at the hard corner of Stroh and Crowfoot Valley Road and within the 250 feet of the residential that's located on planning area 2, so to the south, even though it looks like it's to the left. The third thing is increase the allowed size of a commercial daycare. So previously it allowed for 3,500 square feet. This change will allow up to 10,000 square feet, which is consistent with the town land development ordinance. Again, there are 8 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria ensure that a need exists, the proposal is consistent with the master plan, and that there's adequate services to serve the development. The applicant has addressed these criteria and staff has reviewed that and has agreed that these have been met. So, the proposed commercial changes are consistent with the neighborhood center designation and will serve the needs of the residents in the nearby neighborhood. And it will not change the overall character of the development. So therefore, staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that it's consistent or meets the 8 criteria of the rezoning. It is consistent with the town's master plan. All referral agency comments have been addressed and all notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Avalon Bay Plan Development Amendment Number 1. This concludes my presentation. The applicant is here tonight and also has a presentation for you this evening.
Questions for Stacy?
I have a quick question. Sorry if I missed this. You mentioned that the multi-tenant is being changed to 3 tenants. What was it prior?
So before it still said 3 tenants, but 8,000 square feet minimum size. That square foot has been removed, 3 tenants remain.
I have a question about the multi-tenant building as well. What does it mean when you say the timing for when it must be constructed will be removed? Is there no deadline for it now?
Yes, so when this was originally approved, there's a condition in the PD that states that it had to be constructed prior to like the third building being built in planning area 1, so within that commercial area. That has proved to be problematic for just the market and how that's gonna work, and so that timing has been removed, but the requirement that a multi-tenant building be constructed on the property remains in place.
I'm gonna jump in here and ask, how do you enforce that?
So that condition in the PD was changed. So this property, it was annexed and zoned, it has been platted, so there's a minor development plat platted into lots. If you go down there and based on these pictures, it is under construction, and that is for the multifamily portion of the project that's just south of the commercial. What they'd have to do next for the commercial is they'd have to replat it into buildable lots. Right now it's just this lot. And so commercial uses are gonna come in. At that time, what they have to do is they have to put together some sort of plan that shows where that multi-tenant would be located that meets the 3 tenants size for the market, and then design a lot that will fit it. And on that plat, it's gonna have a plat restriction that says a multi-tenant lot will go there, or a multi-tenant building will be built there.
There's no actual requirement that they build it, if they can plat it and just leave it vacant
Yeah.
forever.
Sure.
So Stacy, why did you originally have, I remember that you gave us a reasoning why there originally was a time limit on that. Could you talk about what that original thinking was?
So the original thinking and why there was a time limit was really this is a neighborhood center. So neighborhood centers in the master plan, it's medium density residential, but in neighborhood centers, you can do a little bit higher density to bring in that commercial, to get the rooftops. But it's really to support the neighborhood. So getting more neighborhood commercial, having that walkable commercial, not just a gas station or a drive-through coffee shop, stuff that people don't even get out of their cars for, but having something that draws the residents of this development and the adjacent development there, and keeps them there. So that was really the intent of the multi-tenant, having that come near the beginning to try to get that, knowing that most likely the market's gonna put those other uses there first, but try to pull that in originally.
Okay.
Can you talk to me about the drive-throughs?
Yes. So drive-throughs, the tail land development ordinance, as we went through that whole process, one of the things we wanted to do is leave those hard corners more pedestrian friendly. Whether our land development ordinance is succeeding in that or not, we're not sure. And then the other thing was keeping drive-throughs 250 feet away from existing residential. Reason being is we call them squawk boxes, so you have the ordering, it gets kind of loud. Just trying to keep that noise away from existing residential. But that's where these businesses want to go. And so it's not really, we don't know if it's gonna work or not. And this just kind of loosens it. This is 8 acres of commercial. Getting that multi-tenant and the drive-through and possibly other uses there to possibly have 3, maybe 4 lots, and they can talk to that more. It's really just opening it up to allow for more uses here.
So it's trying to be business friendly, essentially.
Correct.
I think it's really important that we begin to look at adding more businesses to places in Parker other than Parker Road. Because Parker Road really is where all the businesses are. And that's where all the traffic is, because that's where the businesses are. And when I drive around, I always think, gee, I wish there was a grocery store over here, or not a gas station, but a grocery store, like a Home Goods or, places that people can go where it's not always just Parker Road. And so when I hear that, it makes me feel real good.
Nothing.
As the applicant, want to step forward to the microphone, please? State your name and address.
My name is Todd Nicotra. I'm with Avalon Day Communities. Address is 5050 South Syracuse Street in Denver, Colorado. I'm going to be very, very brief in my remarks and then turn things over to Andrew from my team. But I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the town of Parker for supporting our project back in 2023 when we initially had applied for the annexation and zoning. We presented in front of this commission and got support from town council as well. And we're very excited to be building high quality housing right there, right now. So thank you for your support, both the staff and the commission. We're here tonight because we really would like to see successful commercial on the corner. And as Commissioner Ruiz just mentioned, it's nice to have something that's not on Parker Road. I think residents who live nearby would appreciate having commercial in close proximity. So we've been marketing the land for sale for a couple of years now, almost 2 years now, and we've had limited success. And the reason why is really because there are some unique zoning characteristics, which you just heard about, which are making it challenging for commercial developers to want to develop it. And so we're requesting these modifications so that ideally we can identify a commercial developer who can successfully bring neighborhood serving retail to this part of the town. I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Andrew for the full presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andrew Johnson with Avalon Bay, of course. I'm a senior development manager there. My address is 7052 Hidden Cove Court in Castle Pines, Colorado. Great to be here with you tonight and share a little bit about our project and what we're requesting today. I don't have control of the slides, right? Okay. Can I go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to give you a little background, I know you heard some of this. Of course, we went through our zoning and annexation process some time ago, back in July of 2023. We originally went through a planned development zoning. And so in our planned development zoning, across the 33 acres, we had 5 planning areas. And really what we're talking about tonight is that planning area 1, which is our mixed use or commercial parcel. Just to give you an update on where the other parts of what's going on with the other parts of the site, planning areas 2 through 4 is where the multifamily development is happening, and that's ongoing today. Planning area 5 is also not really under construction anymore, but there was the Lemon Gulch runs through there. There was a floodplain improvement project that we went through there, and that's substantially complete at this point. And that's actually town of Parker land now. We dedicated that at time of subdivision. So the project is moving forward, but planning area 1, as you heard from Todd, we're still working through the sale process. And as Todd mentioned, we've had limited interest in the site. Actually, I should correct that. We've had quite a bit of interest, but upon further review of the PD from commercial developers, we're hearing about some key challenges. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit further on those challenges for you today. Jump to the next slide there. So the first challenge that comes out on the PD is daycare uses. So under the existing PD, daycares cannot be any greater than 3,500 square feet. And what we've learned from speaking with Mitch Trevey, who's brokering the site, and speaking with commercial developers, 3,500 square feet is simply not in line with what daycare and childcare providers would like to provide. It doesn't fit with their operating model. Really, 10,000 square feet is the minimum size of those establishments. So with 3,500 square feet, we're simply not going to see that use come to this area, which we think is a shame because as anyone who's been in this part of Parker knows, there's thousands of homes there, there's many young children, and right now there's no daycare south of Hess Road. We believe from the statistics that 3 to 4 daycares would be supported in that area, and we think it would be an excellent use and really be in line with the neighborhood center goals that the master plan of Parker has in mind. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge I'd like to highlight is the drive-through facilities issue. So you heard a little bit about where drive-throughs are permitted and not permitted on the site right now. Really, the core of this one is ever since COVID, increasingly the need for drive-throughs for many retailers that didn't historically require drive-throughs has increased. So whether it be banks, coffee, restaurants, retailers that you historically may not have seen a drive-through for are often demanding those in their new developments. And so having them in a very limited portion of the site, really it was about a quarter of the site that allowed drive-throughs previously, was detrimental, and we were getting a ton of feedback from commercial developers that was simply a challenge that would have to be overcome. moving on to the third obstacle, and you've heard about the multi-tenant building here. I won't necessarily rehash everything that's been said so far, but I think you got a little bit of a feel for the previous timing requirements. The building had to be, the requirement was that it was built no later than the third building in the commercial development. In addition to that, it was required that you receive a certificate of occupancy for that building before you get a building permit for the fourth commercial building. So you'd have to fully complete that third multi-tenant building before you could even start construction on a fourth building. And at the same time, you had to start site planning that building before you could pull the building permit on a second building. So as you can see, that may have been a little confusing, but I think it's just indicative of the challenges that a commercial developer may have in terms of how to sequence the development of that parcel. So that was a challenge we heard about repeatedly. And one thing to understand about multi-tenant buildings right now in the current economic environment, although several of these types of retail buildings have been planned and approved, none of those buildings have broken ground since 2021 in Parker. And that's a symptom of higher interest rates. It's a symptom of higher construction costs, and frankly, the retail rents are lower in these types of buildings. So making those multi-tenant buildings profitable for a developer is very challenging right now. So what we're hearing from commercial developers is this building is frankly not profitable at this moment in time. It's not to say it won't be in the future, but it's very hard for them to buy the lot and then move forward with developing this commercial neighborhood center while that requirement is in place and there's all these sequencing requirements. So those were the key obstacles we were seeking to overcome with this PD amendment. And with that, we had a few proposals which you've heard about tonight. Really the key proposals and changes we're proposing on this zoning amendment, first of all, on daycare, is to increase the allowable size to 10,000 square feet, which we think increases the likelihood that we'll see a daycare in this neighborhood center. It allows drive-throughs throughout planning area 1, which we think increases the likelihood of seeing key neighborhood serving uses like coffee, banks, restaurants. And of course, those drive-throughs will still have to go through the site planning process and be subject to all the screening requirements and so on that would be typical in Parker. And then finally, the multi-tenant building, as you've heard, this PD amendment removes the minimum square footage requirements and the timing requirements, but it replaces it with a different mechanism to make sure we allocate the right space so that this multi-tenant building will ultimately get built just at a time when it makes financial and economic sense for a commercial developer so that it doesn't serve to obstruct the development on the rest of the lot. Because what we would all hate to see, I think, is nothing to happen on the lot because this one building won't work at this time. So that's, of course, our concern there. So those are our proposals tonight. We think that these are, common sense adjustments that really serve to align the parcel with the Parker master plan. We think they will ultimately serve the neighborhood and benefit the neighborhood. We think it will be beneficial to our future residents here. And we're happy to answer any questions you have and appreciate your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Question?
I have a question. I'm not even sure I know how to ask the question though. I understand the business need for these proposed changes, but I'm asking why this benefits the town of Parker.
Sure. So I suppose I'd say a few things there. I think some of the changes are very common sense and benefit just outright. I think on the daycare front, I think that's a use that I think would be fantastic there, and I think most folks in Parker, and certainly in this part of Parker, would really appreciate in their neighborhood center. I think on the issue of the multi-tenant building, a multi-tenant building will be a nice feature of this development. I think the challenge with the multi-tenant building and the requirements of how it comes into existence right now, unfortunately, are obstructing the development as a whole, if that makes sense. So it's certainly not our suggestion that a multi-tenant building can't work in this location. We think it can do fantastic. But what we're hearing from the market is that the sequencing and having it be prescribed at a very certain time in the development is frankly making the whole development not work at this time, if that makes sense.
So again, I'm gonna reiterate, because I didn't hear the answer, can you tell me how this benefits the citizens of Parker?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the citizens of Parker, I mean, the comp plan was designed for this to be a neighborhood center and for there to be commercial and neighborhood serving retail in this area. Today with the PD amendment, or the PD as it stands today, the commercial is not coming. We've had it for sale for almost 2 years and we don't have a commercial development partner that will develop the site. So right now the concern for us is that it will not be developed in the near future. And I don't think that serves the residents of Parker well. We would like to see the site develop and ultimately bring those neighborhood serving needs. Hopefully that answered the question.
I'm gonna pick it apart just a little bit more, and
Okay.
tease it a little bit more and say, okay, great, so the residents of Parker will benefit by having this commercial.
Mhm.
And that benefit accrues through the possibility of huge daycare centers. I don't have children, so I don't understand the need. And then we build drive-throughs, which we can build in other locations throughout Parker. And we need to have no timing restrictions on a multi-tenant building, because the multi-tenant building won't be built because there's no market for it this time. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think so. I don't know if you're asking a question there or just restating, but
So I'm saying, I understand that there is probably a daycare need in the town of Parker.
yep.
That I understand. What I don't understand is how this proposed zoning amendment benefits the town of Parker.
This benefits the town of Parker because it creates a path for a neighborhood center to come to fruition at the corner of Stroke and Crowfoot Valley, which is a real benefit because by my count, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 single-family homes in that area, which of course right now, there are many services that exist on Parker Road. They can drive to Parker Road and access those services, but that's miles away, depending on what you're accessing. This provides some of those neighborhood-serving retail uses very close to all these new single-family homes and new communities that are coming to Parker. So that's why I believe it would be a benefit to the residents of Parker, particularly in that area.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Nothing for me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Stacy? Okay, then we will close the
No, no. This guy.
Sorry, oh yes. Wow, see, I forgot you this time. All right, we will open it to public comment. Eric, step to the
All
microphone.
right. Hi, I'm Eric Gears. My address is 12849 Randalls Avenue here in Parker, Colorado. And
Thank
this
you for
is-
coming.
This is my neighborhood. There's a need for daycare. There's a need for drive-through food service. There's only one drive-through restaurant south of Hess Road right now. There's 2 more coming, but only one right now. And I'm tired of driving out to Parker Road to go get food at lunch, dinner, breakfast, any of those. So something that's closer, right around the corner from this. That's actually not what I stood up here to talk about, the drive-through. I'm actually going to talk about the daycare, because I also have daycare need. I have 2 kids. One is almost 3 weeks old. One's 3.5 years old. So I just wanted to share really briefly my own experience with daycare here in Parker. When my son was born 3.5 years ago, we did not have childcare set up yet, not realizing that it can be very challenging to get your kid into daycare if you don't plan ahead. So we kept him home for a year, which was a huge struggle trying to get somebody to watch him. During that time when my wife and I were both trying to work, we both worked from home full time. So when it came time to try to find daycare for him, we wanted to stay, right here instead of driving really far away. But when we were calling around to all the daycares in Parker at the time, everybody had a 12 to 18 month wait list. There just are not enough daycares here in town. And so anything that we can do to increase the supply of that invaluable childcare here at Parker is extremely important. Instead, we ended up having to take our kid 20 minutes out to Englewood every day, there and back, while we work from home full time. We're adding to traffic, both of us. and wasting a lot of time just to get him out to a school that quite frankly was terrible. We had to get him out of there, but fortunately, we were able to find a spot here at Parker. So now we have him at the Goddard School here in Parker, and it's only a 5-minute drive. It's extremely convenient for both of us. And to Andrew's point, 3,500 square feet, you will not find a daycare at 3,500 square feet. The average daycare size in the town of Parker is over 11,000 square feet. To answer your question, the need for daycare, the sizing requirement is probably about 2 acres. In addition to being a resident of Parker, I'm a land planner for a residential architecture firm. And for the last 10 years, I've worked with Avalon Bay, not this team yet, but I definitely support their work and know that they do good work. So anything I can do to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
None for me.
Mitch?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and the board. Mitch Trevey Commercial Real Estate, 10510 Branksville Road in Parker. I do want to speak specifically to this project. I've been involved with Avalon Bay Communities since they purchased and developed and got the approvals for the project. And when it comes to the commercial component, Planning Area 1, as we're going through the plan development, some of these restrictions and requirements that were put in place, we didn't think that there was going to be that much of a challenge with them, but as we went to market, we pretty quickly learned that there were some specific challenges that those created. So over the last 2 years, it's been my responsibility to take the property to market. And so we've contacted every commercial developer that's not only active in the Douglas County and Denver metro market, but even regional developers to get this property on the market and on the radar with them so that they could consider developing. And the 2-3 things that we ran into, the biggest issue we found was the multi-tenant building. Because to Andrew's point, there have been multiple multi-tenant buildings planned and approved in the town of Parker. And we know because we're trying to pre-lease some of them before they come out of the ground. Nobody's willing to break ground on those because the cost of construction and the rents are just too high. So to have a requirement in this PD for a multi-tenant building to be built at a specific time by the third lot to be built, whether you've got tenants for it or not, that was a major impediment. So most commercial developers said, you know, we've got some built-to-suit tenants, we've got some uses that we can put in there, but if somebody's going to make us build a multi-tenant building by the third lot or the third structure that goes in there, whether we've got tenants for it or not, we're out. So that was a concern. As far as the drive-through goes, what Andrew was touching on is that since the virus, there has been an increased demand for drive-through. Banks have always needed them. Fast food has always needed those. Coffee needs them. But even if you'll notice, like Chipotle moved from up in Cottonwood over in next to Costco just so they could get a drive-through because their earlier location did not have one. So most drive-through uses, or excuse me, most businesses that could benefit from a drive-through use are going to want to be there. And if there's no drive-throughs available, they're going to pass on that too. So some of our commercial developers found that, okay, with the requirement to build a multi-tenant building at higher than ever cost with no tenants, and then not being able to deliver drive-through opportunities in the project, it was another reason for them not to want to move forward. To speak to daycare, 10,000 square feet is definitely not huge. And to your point, yeah, they're typically 11 or 12,000 square feet. The learning experience, which is up at Hess and Crowfoot, or Hess and Motzenbacher, that one is right at 10,800 square feet, and that's considered small. I've done the last 2 kiddie academies in town. The kids are kids. The learning experience, as well as Little Sunshines, and all of those are 11 or 12,000 square feet. So having a minimum 10,000 square feet shouldn't be an issue. But what we did to support this request is we did the research with regard to availability of daycare. And to speak to your point, yes, there's a more demand than there is product. And typically a year and a half wait list, people are leaving the community to deliver their kids to childcare. And that's just creating some economic development bleeding, if you will, because if parents have to take their kids out of the community for daycare, that's where they're going to spend their money, either on the way there or after picking up their kids. And so in the Parker southeast or southwest market along that Crowfoot corridor, with the development of everything from Trails at Crowfoot to Looking Glass, et cetera, there's an unmet demand for early learning centers. We don't call them daycare anymore. So nonetheless, so there's a demand for that. So what we're requesting is not unreasonable. It brings it into line with regard to daycare. I think Stacy mentioned that even the land development ordinance is right around 10,000 square feet. But as far as like drive-throughs and the requirement for the multi-tenant building, we don't think any of that's unreasonable. We think it's going to open up more appeal. And to answer your question with regard to how does it benefit the town, indeed, that would stimulate quicker response and more active development by a commercial developer by removing the constraints as well as removing the requirement for delivery of a multi-tenant building until it's time. I mean, it's still a neighborhood center. We believe there's going to be demand at some point for a multi-tenant retail building, but we need to let the market speak to when the timing is right, rather than it being a requirement whether there's a tenant or not. So at any rate, I think I've covered just about everything I wanted to say. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Bryce, for your work.
Mitch. All right. Any other comment? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Any further questions? No?
No, I have no further questions.
I have a question for Stacy. So I'm obviously having a hard time fitting in what is being requested with the concept of a neighborhood center. So can you help me stitch those things together?
Yeah, so a neighborhood center is really, the goal in the master plan is to provide neighborhood serving amenities, whether that be restaurants, daycares. Dry cleaners really aren't a thing anymore, but dry cleaners is kind of from the planning stuff. People in that neighborhood, they don't have to drive to Inglewood or Centennial to go get them. So that's really serving that community. I think somebody mentioned Parker Road is where we have all of our businesses, and people are driving there. And this is more of a place for people to live and shop, maybe not work, but kind of that's the neighborhood intent. This is small, I mean, it's 8 acres, it's not gonna be a grand plan, so trying to fit that all in. And I think when this was originally annexed and zoned and we're thinking it through, we're going through a really big push of car washes and gas stations and knowing that this could allow for those and trying to put those off for a little bit to bring that neighborhood in and maybe deter those uses from coming. We're seeing them slow down, and so maybe the market's changing. So I think the benefit is opening it up. It is a benefit to the town to have commercially developed land, not just sitting vacant. Bringing those services to those residents, I think you are going to see a high demand here. This is the only corner of that entire intersection that has commercial. So it'll come, I do believe.
All right, we will close the public hearing at 7:57. Commissioner discussion.
I don't have kids, never had any, but I have neighbors who have kids who drive 30 minutes to drop their kids off. And unfortunately, it does take away from Parker because they eat where they are and they go to restaurants where the kids are, and they're probably gonna move because of it, which is sad because they're good, they're good residents of Parker, and I actually know that they volunteer a great deal for not only within our community. So I see the need. Where I have a little bit of a hitch is not putting a time limit on the development of the commercial property because it can stay vacant long past I'm dead. I would not, no one wants to see just an empty lot with nothing or a water tank. That's where sort of my glitch is. I understand the why because the market does dictate. I don't disagree with that. A lot has changed, especially in the last probably 3 to 5 years. But I just, to not put some sort of a limit on it so that there is some sort of growth, at least projected to say maybe that you have to do it within 5 years. And then you can, if you need to rezone it, you can, or if you need to reapply, then that would be where my sort of quandary is. But I'm otherwise in agreement, and I think that, I will vote in favor of it.
I think that the original intent was a very creative way to try to ensure that you got an even development of that parcel. And I don't remember having seen that kind of timing thing on anything else that we looked at before. And I thought at the time that that was, gee, what a creative way to try to figure that out. And sometimes when we do creative things, it just doesn't work. And that has, I'm convinced now, having heard the testimony, that that is in fact the case here, that it has not worked to try to do the timing. The drive-throughs disappoint me that we're going to allow them closer, but I understand that if we want them to be built, they're going to build them where they can use them. And I also know that staff is very good when we get to actually planning out and doing the actual design, that pedestrian safety will be paramount in doing that. And as for daycare, I worked in an early learning center at the time I joined the Planning Commission, and I am well aware of the need. My concern is that we've only got it up to 10,000 square feet. You know, we may want to look at that and change it to like 15,000 square feet instead of just 10,000. I'm concerned that some of the larger and really good aftercare as well as early learning centers might need more square footage than that. So I don't want to hold this up. If we got to the point where we needed to have a larger square footage, I'm sure that it could come back through yet again. I mean, this is only amendment number 1. We're up to many, many amendments on some other properties. So I don't have a problem with that. I will be in support of this zoning amendment. I made some notes regarding the benefit to the town, because that's a really important question that Jane brings up. And one of the things that I don't think was really brought up is that empty lots give us no tax revenue. Businesses built on those lots do give us tax revenue. And so that is something that benefits the entire town, not just the folks who are in that southwest corner of Parker. But for the folks in that neighborhood, the ability to have something that you can walk to or that you can get to very quickly and easily is a real benefit for folks. It's one of the things that keeps me living in downtown is because I have easy access to everything. So I see a benefit. I think that this is a start. I predict we're going to have another amendment at some point, but I will be in favor of this one.
I'm in favor as well. As my other commissioners have mentioned, there's certainly a great benefit to the things outlined as far as the changes. I have 2 kids in daycare. I understand the need for a larger, square footage, especially with how the UPK has changed things and everything along those lines. So I think these amendments are really helping to meet the market, and that will, spur the development. And then, as Ruthann mentioned, developed land is better than vacant land as it sits. So I'm in support of it.
Anything else, Jenny?
Yes, I also will tend to support this, and I share your struggle. Eric, is it?
Yeah.
I share your struggle with daycare, not currently, but I'm not far away from it, and so I'm a little stuck on that one as well. I think the need for childcare is huge. I agree with you about the timing and on the multi-tenant building. So I think if we look at that moving forward, that's great. But otherwise, agree with everything else that was said and bigger.
Okay, anything else?
I will thank the applicant for coming in and for trying to answer my question. I understand the business need, absolutely understand the business need, and if I could convince myself to make the zoning amendment based on the business need by itself, I would, but I can't in good conscience do that. So I will be voting no against the proposed amendment.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we move the planning commission recommend town council approve the Avalon Bay Plan Development First Amendment.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, moved by Ileana, seconded by Eric, that we approve the Avalon Bay zoning amendment, and I'll call the question. Jenny,
Yes.
Juliana,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Ruth Ann,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Jane,
No.
chair is aye. It passes 6-1. Thank you. Next item, next slide we've got. The amendment, this is 7A, amendment to section 13.05.060, parentheses C, parentheses 3 of the Park Municipal Code concerning use-specific standards for mobile businesses. Looks like Bryce.
Thank you, Chair. Members.
We'll open the meeting at, let's see, o'clock,
8:05.
8:05, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. As noted before you tonight, are proposed changes to the mobile business ordinance. These changes came out of a study session with Town Council. Second, the proposed amendments include eliminating the requirement for mobile businesses to move. Right now, there's a standard that says every Monday through Thursday night between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., a mobile business has to move to a site that's not visible from the public. This proposal would remove that requirement, and it would classify mobile businesses into 3 groupings. One is daily, so those are extensively operations like we see today, where they show up at a location, they sell their food or their wares, they leave at the end of the day and go to another storage location. Short term, so that would be 2 to 89 days, and then long term, which is 90 days plus. The reason we chose the difference between up to 90 days and after 90 days is there are different building code requirements once you hit that 90-day marker. Signage, currently, these businesses are allowed 1 sandwich board sign, and of course, whatever's written on the side of the vehicle. The proposed change would allow for 1 more temporary banner that complies with town sign code. So that's up to 40 days, I think, 40 square feet, 45 days. I looked to Jen because she's the knower of these things. In addition,
Thank you.
We thought we would just stay on that one slide.
you might have, I didn't have the help of Stacy. It also includes some additional nuisance impacts. And so these businesses will need to comply with the LDO regarding nuisances such as noise, odor, vibration, trash, debris, lighting, and vermin. They will be required to meet the building code, hence the 90-day timeline. Operations must cease at 10 p.m. or half an hour after closing, whichever's first. For the short term and long term, they'll need to address impacts they may have on parking and access to the site. In addition, the planning director may promulgate some additional standards to address specific nuisances that may come up. Permits are still required. They still need Hardwick Health Department permits. They still need a town business license. They still need that fire district approval. Uses in the public right of way stay the same. They cannot stay in the public right of way for 1 day period. The proposed change will support the following strategies from the Parker 2035 Master Plan. Encourage land uses that create a sense of community for those who work, live, and play within neighborhoods. Continue to review our land development ordinance to make sure it is fair, consistent, and understandable, and balance Parker's business and retail community so it includes a variety of and diversity of business types. Staff recommends, the Planning Commission recommends, the Town Council approve the ordinance regarding mobile businesses. As always, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Questions for Bryce?
So I do have a question. Where the development where the subdivision where we live, they have occasional food trucks come in Friday night, I think usually. We've had an ice cream or sorbet thing come on Sundays, which is great, you know, it kind of brings the community out.
Yeah.
So that's a mobile one, that one that moves. Do they still have to get the health department and everything, all of those things aligned before they can come to the property and obviously and be there and do and serve food, et cetera?
Yes, yeah, so they work through Jen and Wendy up front to get what we call a mobile business permit. And we make sure that they have county health approval, that they have fire district approval, and I forgot the third thing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Business license.
And business, yeah, business license. Okay.
I have a question. For some of the food trucks that are instead of on a public street, but are instead on the private property, I know that there's a business downtown that's using a food truck for food service currently, and we have a 10 p.m. closing for the food truck, but it's in a commercial area, and there are other restaurants and food service opportunities on that same block, you know, within a couple blocks of that. And I don't know that they're required to close at 10 o'clock. So I was curious as to why the food trucks in a commercial area would be required to close at 10 o'clock if the businesses they're associating themselves with would still be open otherwise.
So this is reflective of the current code that sets the times of the operations. And it was set up partially because we didn't know daily whether they'd show up in neighborhoods, next to residential areas, that type of thing. So it was really thinking about allowing them the flexibility to move around while trying to mitigate if they ended up in places where residents are, the impacts that they might have. So that's the background behind it.
Right. It appears to me that you've done a good job of breaking out between things that are on the public right of way, they have to vacate, and being gone by 10 o'clock makes perfect sense there. But when it's tucked away in the back of a parking lot of a private property, it doesn't make sense to me to require that to close at 10 o'clock when the associated business that it's serving, whose clientele it's serving, doesn't have to close at 10 o'clock. They get to stay open as late as the liquor laws allow them to stay open because they serve liquor at that establishment, the one I'm thinking of. But there's other restaurants that have, and things that have food trucks and that. So I don't know that, you know, this is something that we need to change the drafting on or suggest the change of the drafting on now. But I'd like to the extent that town council looks at what we talk about tonight, I'd like to make sure that they take a look at that and consider if maybe that restriction might be, when it's associated with a commercial establishment, that its closing hours be in line with the commercial establishment it's associated with. I just think that gives it a fair, it's a little bit fairer for the trucks and for those businesses that are relying on trucks to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think, you know, I think this is a good idea. It certainly is a way to allow more people to get into and to serve folks without having to have all the infrastructure of a permanent brick and mortar building.
Any other questions, Brent?
I have a question. I don't believe this was addressed, but nevertheless, it's very subjective. But my question would be, how do we ensure that the mobile vehicles are attractive? Some of them are quite lovely and very creative, and some of them are dumpy and horrible looking, and it's embarrassing. Is there anything built into that to ensure that they're well maintained, they're attractive,
Yeah, so there's nothing in the requirement that talks about design requirements. or anything like that. It's partially because they're mobile.
So they can get the heck out if they're not good looking?
They could choose to if they wanted to.
Well, I think it's important because it really adds to the overall beautification of the town. And they're becoming very popular. And I think the number of them too, there should be some kind of a limit of how many mobile things that we have in the town. Is there a requirement for how many we can have, or?
No, there's not. Right now, there are about 50 permitted within the community. Obviously, they're not all here all the time. And so they come and go as they
What kind of taxes do we collect from them?
That's something I don't know.
Other questions for Bryce?
Yeah, I do have one other question for Bryce. I noticed in the proposed ordinance that there is some leeway for the planning director to make additional requirements. And I'm wondering what triggers that.
So, as we were looking at this, there was some concern about kind of the unknown of these facilities staying in certain locations. For example, we have one that's grandfathered in that's putting in a $500 gallon propane tank. That's something that we hadn't thought about. So it's kind of these things that, as these begin to stay longer, they begin to have additional impacts or additional requirements or requests. And rather than coming back every time there's something like that, it allows us to address it without having to wait to go through drafting two public hearings.
So I guess my question then is the global then requirement, whatever decisions made, and is not on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, they would not be on a case-by-case basis. It would be, this is an issue and it will be applied to
Everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, unless Eric's coming back to speak again, we have nobody for public comment. Appreciated his comment about the elk. At any rate, we will close the public hearing at,
Chair, can I just add one thing?
okay,
If you want, you could add a condition regarding a restriction on timing in commercial areas. You had mentioned it, you can either do it as a condition or I can pass it forward in my presentation.
I'm not comfortable writing LDO language
Okay.
right now.
pass it to,
I'm
pass it
gonna
forward.
pass that job forward, and possibly between now and when the town council looks at it, possibly the legal department could take a look and suggest a friendly amendment to that language.
And to do a condition, you don't have to write it, it's just.
I'll do that for
recommend
sure.
So you will state that,
I will state that in my
Okay.
motion, yes.
okay. All right, now, we'll close
8:20,
8,
8:18.
8:18, we will close the public hearing. Commissioner discussion, if we have beat it to death already.
Touched on everything.
I think so. I think,
Anything else?
I will, we don't have the proposed amendment or proposed condition verbiage already at this particular point, but I think you raise a good concern, Ruth Ann, at the
Well,
same time,
I'm gonna make the motion with a proposed condition,
right?
and then after I've done that, then we can
Discuss it, okay.
That's how that works, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me make that motion. I move the planning commission recommend town council approve an ordinance to amend the Parker Municipal Code regarding mobile businesses with the following condition, that they consider amending the language proposed to accommodate those businesses located, those businesses that use food trucks in commercial areas on private property, have closing times that are concurrent with the business itself. And this is being recorded, so you don't have to repeat it.
I don't think so. Okay. Commissioner discussion with that amendment?
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it at all.
I think it makes sense. Even playing field.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's been moved by Ruth Ann. And do we have a second for the motion and the condition?
I will second that, the motion and the condition.
Been moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Jenny, that planning commission recommend town council approve an ordinance to amend the Park Municipal Code regarding mobile businesses, subject to the condition outlined
Previously.
previously.
But she doesn't want to write it.
It's a dang good thing that there's
Okay,
video.
well, call the question. Jenny,
Yes.
Ileana,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Ruth Ann,
Aye.
Eric, Jane,
Aye.
chair is aye, passes 7-0. Although I will say, my grandma always told me nothing good happened after 10 o'clock.
We know who's gonna be hanging out there after 10.
But if you have a food truck, hopefully you can absorb some of that.
Yes.
All right, I just had that. All right, it looks like we have a calendar here, Jen. Are we supposed to vote on that?
Yes.
This is when I always have my objection of why we're not meeting on Valentine's Day.
Good thing is it's a Saturday.
Now you're stuck taking her out to dinner.
So we can vote on that tonight if the commission's ready to vote on it.
Sure.
Any questions on the calendar? Do we have a motion to approve?
I will approve, I make a motion that we approve the planning commission calendar for 2026 meeting schedule.
I second.
Been moved by Ileana, second by Ruth Ann, that we approve the calendar for 2026. Mark those dates down in your date book, kids. All right, we'll call the question. Jenny,
Yes.
Ileana,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Ruth Ann,
Aye.
Eric, Jane,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. Passes unanimously. Anything else?
Yes, so January 22nd, there'll be a study session on the Parker 2050 comprehensive plan. You will get a draft on January 15th, so set the weekend aside for some fireplace reading. We're pretty excited about it, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up it was coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna do something different here. Let's by acclamation, just all in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Well, then we're adjourned.